Chosen one, right now someone cannot sleep because of you. They're replaying every moment, realizing that the story they once believed, that someone in love with you is holding a grudge because of lies whispered into their ear, lies that twisted their judgment and poisoned their heart, was never the truth. The person who fed them those lies knew exactly what they were doing. This was intentional sabotage, meant to sever a connection they feared. And for a while it worked. But what no one expected was your grace. You simply walked away with your dignity intact. And that quiet departure is now echoing in their mind, reminding them that your presence was always the real blessing. There is someone in this person's inner circle who has been poisoning the well, someone who smiles in their face while destroying their chance at happiness behind their back. This manipulator understands psychology better than most therapists. They know which wounds to press on, they know which fears to activate, they know exactly how to frame information so it sounds like wisdom when it is really poison. This person has been studying your connection from the beginning, watching how this person lights up when your name is mentioned, noticing the shift in their energy after spending time with you, observing the way genuine joy replaced the performance they had grown accustomed to seeing. And every observation fed their determination to dismantle what you were building together. They could not allow this person to access the kind of happiness that would make them independent, could not permit the kind of clarity that would expose all the lies that had been accepted as truth. For many of you, this manipulator has feelings for the person who loves you, not always obvious romantic attraction. Sometimes it manifests as possessive friendship. Sometimes it looks like protective family concern. Sometimes it hides behind professional mentorship. But underneath all the disguises, the core motivation is the same: control. They want to be the central figure in this person's life. They want to be the one who gets consulted for every decision. They want to be irreplaceable, and you threaten that position simply by existing. When you entered the picture, something shifted. Suddenly this person had someone who made them feel seen in ways the manipulator never could. Suddenly they had access to genuine connection instead of the counterfeit the manipulator was selling. Suddenly they started questioning patterns they had accepted for years. Your presence illuminated dysfunction they had been tolerating. Your authenticity highlighted the manipulator's performative nature. Without trying, without even knowing it, you exposed everything that was wrong in this person's world. The manipulator saw this happening, and panic set in. They could not compete with you directly. Your energy, your authenticity, your presence spoke for itself, so they went underground. They started planting seeds disguised as concern. They would bring up stories about people who seemed similar to you but ended up being disappointing. They would sigh at just the right moment when your name came up. They would share articles about red flags that coincidentally matched traits you possessed. Nothing obvious, nothing this person could point to as manipulation, just steady, consistent, subtle redirection away from you. And it worked because timing is everything. This person you care about had unhealed wounds from previous relationships. Someone had hurt them badly before you came along. Someone had shattered their confidence. Someone had made them doubt their judgment. When you appeared, they were still operating from that wounded place. So when the manipulator started drawing parallels between you and whoever hurt them before, when they started suggesting history might repeat itself, this person's trauma response activated. Fear took over, and fear makes people choose wrong every single time. Now we enter territory most people refuse to acknowledge. What has been happening to this person goes beyond psychological manipulation. There is a spiritual component to their confusion. Forces aligned against your connection have been working overtime to keep this person trapped in cycles that prevent clarity. Every time they get close to seeing the truth, something interferes. Every time they think about reaching out to you, some distraction appears. Every time clarity breaks through, confusion rushes back in like a flood. Look at how this person has been living since you left. The deterioration is visible to anyone paying attention. They are not caring for themselves the way they did when you were around. There is a sloppiness to their energy that was not there before. For some of you, this person has turned to substances to numb feelings they cannot process. Anything to quiet the voice inside that keeps whispering they made a terrible mistake. Anything to drown out the knowing that pulses underneath all the lies. Their judgment is compromised in ways that go beyond normal poor decision-making. They are giving their energy to people who obviously do not value them. They are repeating patterns they swore they would never repeat. They are making choices that anyone on the outside can see are destructive, but they cannot see it. They are in a fog so thick that truth cannot penetrate. And every time the fog starts to lift, every time clarity begins to break through, the attack intensifies. The manipulator has access to information most people never get. This person tells them everything. Every doubt, every fear, every moment of weakness gets shared, and the manipulator weaponizes all of it. They know exactly when to strike with a comment that reinforces the lies. They know exactly what to say to keep this person confused and dependent. They have turned themselves into this person's emotional compass, knowing full well they are pointing them in the wrong direction. You have done inner work most people avoid their entire lives. You have faced your shadows and integrated your lessons. You have learned to balance emotion with logic without losing access to either. When manipulation comes your way, you recognize it instantly and dismiss it without needing to understand every detail. You have spiritual armor that comes from healing. You have clarity that comes from self-knowledge. You have become untouchable to the tactics that keep weaker people trapped. If these words stirred your consciousness, hype this video to help more chosen ones awaken to this. When you first crossed paths with this person, something awakened in them. They felt powerful in a way they had not felt in years. Not power over you, power within themselves. Your presence reflected back to them a version of who they could be. You carried yourself with such certainty, such self-possession, such quiet confidence, that being around you made them believe they could access those qualities too. You were not trying to inspire them, you were just being yourself. But your authenticity gave them permission to imagine stepping into their own. You showed them what it looks like to move through the world without apology, what it means to hold standards without explaining them to people who would never understand anyway, what it feels like to trust your own knowing, even when everyone around you is offering contrary advice. They had never witnessed that kind of self-possession up close before, and it did something to them. Opened a door in their mind to possibilities they had convinced themselves were not available to people like them. The manipulator saw this shift happening in real time, saw this person starting to question dynamics they had accepted for years, saw them beginning to recognize patterns that no longer served them, saw them standing a little taller, speaking a little clearer, thinking a little more independently, and that terrified the manipulator more than anything else could have. Because a person who thinks for themselves cannot be controlled. A person who trusts their own perception cannot be gaslit. A person who knows their worth cannot be manipulated through manufactured scarcity. This should have been the beginning of genuine transformation for them. This should have been the catalyst that pushed them to do their inner work. This should have been the moment they chose growth over comfort, but they corrupted the opportunity. Instead of using the inspiration you provided to actually change, instead of doing the hard work of healing their wounds, they tried to shortcut the process. They thought they could use the confidence boost they got from your presence to prove something to people from their past. Maybe there was an ex who had made them feel inadequate. Maybe there was a situation where they felt beneath people they should have been equal to. Maybe they had been carrying shame about something for years. Whatever the wound was, they saw you as a tool to heal it without actually healing it. They wanted to use your presence in their life to make someone jealous or prove they were desirable or show certain people they had moved on. They looked at genuine connection and saw an ego boost instead, so they went back. They opened doors that should have stayed closed. They reached out to people who had already proven they were toxic. They invited old energy back into their space, thinking they could now handle it differently because they had you as some kind of talisman. But it does not work that way. You cannot use authentic connection for inauthentic purposes. You cannot weaponize genuine feeling. You cannot take what is sacred and make it strategic. The moment they tried, the whole thing collapsed. The person they went back to came rushing in with all the same toxicity. The situation they thought they had healed from revealed itself to be just as destructive as before. The void they thought your presence would fill got wider instead of smaller. They realized too late that you were never meant to be a band-aid on unhealed wounds. You were meant to be the person they became whole enough to deserve. Let me tell you what haunts this person more than anything else that has happened. The way you left. You did not collapse when they pulled away. You did not beg them to reconsider. You did not scramble to defend yourself against accusations that made no sense. You did not try to convince them that what they heard about you was wrong. You simply removed yourself from the situation with such grace, such composure, such absolute certainty in your worth, that it redefined their understanding of strength. You were able to move like that because you had already done the work they are still avoiding. You had already faced yourself in the mirror and made peace with every crack and flaw. You had already learned that your value is not determined by who recognizes it. You had already discovered that walking away from what does not serve you is not loss, it is liberation. You had already integrated the truth that trying to convince someone of your worth is the fastest way to lose it. So when you felt the shift, when you recognized something was off, when you saw they were operating from a compromised place, you did not waste time trying to fix it. You did not give second chances to someone who had not earned a first one properly. You did not stay to see if things would get better. You just stepped back and kept stepping until you were completely clear of the dysfunction. No looking back, no second guessing, no what-ifs. That level of self-respect is magnetic. That kind of decisiveness is powerful. That degree of clarity is rare enough to be unforgettable. And this person has not stopped thinking about it since, because every day they watch themselves struggle with decisions you would make instantly. Every day they see themselves compromise in ways you never would. Every day they recognize they do not possess what you have. The ability to choose yourself without hesitation, the strength to walk away without closure, the wisdom to protect your peace above all else. Most people need the other person to validate their decision to leave. Most people need acknowledgement of the wrong before they can move on. Most people require some kind of resolution before they can release, but you needed none of that. You saw what you needed to see and you acted accordingly. You trusted yourself completely, and that self-trust, that unshakable knowing, is something this person now realizes they do not have. They have been dependent on outside voices to tell them what to think, and watching you operate from pure internal knowing showed them exactly how far they still have to go. The grudge this person held against you was never about anything you did. It was a construct built from lies and held together by fear. Someone else provided the materials. Gossip disguised as concern, stories framed as warnings, information twisted just enough to sound credible while being completely false. And this person accepted it all because accepting it gave them permission to protect themselves from vulnerability. Deep down they knew the grudge was not real. Deep down they felt the disconnect between what they were being told about you and what they experienced directly. But admitting that would have required courage they did not possess at the time. It would have meant standing up to the manipulator. It would have meant trusting their own perception over someone else's narrative. It would have meant taking a risk on genuine connection when they were still terrified of being hurt. So they chose the grudge. They chose the story that made you the problem. They chose to believe you were dangerous or untrustworthy or wrong for them, because believing that was easier than believing they might be on the edge of something real, and that something real might require them to show up differently than they ever had before. The grudge was their shield, their excuse, their way of staying small and safe and in control. But grudges built on lies cannot survive contact with reality. Eventually the foundation cracks. Eventually the truth seeps through. Eventually the person realizes they have been protecting themselves from an imaginary threat while ignoring the real danger sitting right next to them, whispering poison in their ear. This person is in that realization now. The grudge is crumbling, the lies are being exposed, the manipulator's mask is starting to slip, and underneath all of it, they are finding nothing but regret for time lost and opportunities destroyed. The internal battle they face now is unlike anything they have experienced before. Part of them wants to hold on to the grudge because releasing it means admitting they were wrong, means accepting they hurt someone who did not deserve it, means facing the shame of having been so easily manipulated. But another part of them, the part that is waking up, knows that holding on to lies only delays the inevitable reckoning. You can feel this shift even from a distance. Even with no contact, you can sense something changing in the energy between you. The grudge that felt like a wall now feels like mist. The anger that seemed so solid now reveals itself as smoke. What they convinced themselves was justified rage is dissolving into the regret it always was underneath, and they are terrified of what comes next, terrified of facing you without the shield of false righteousness, terrified of admitting they listened to the wrong voice and made the wrong choice. Every day now, they see something that reminds them of you, a phrase you would say, a way of thinking you embodied, a standard you held that they watched you maintain, even when maintaining it cost you something. And every reminder is another crack in the grudge, another piece of the lie falling away, another moment of clarity breaking through. They are waking up slowly, painfully, but inevitably, and what they see when they look back at their choices is devastating them. Something is about to break in this person's carefully constructed false reality. The manipulator who has been controlling the narrative is about to make a critical error. They have been successful for so long they have become arrogant. They believe they have this person completely under their influence. They believe their position is secure, and that overconfidence is going to expose them. Maybe they will push too hard for something that finally seems suspicious. Maybe they will get caught in a contradiction they cannot explain away. Maybe they will show their true motivations in a moment when they think nobody is watching closely enough to catch it. However it happens, the mask will fall, and when it does, this person is going to see everything at once. Every lie, every manipulation, every carefully crafted narrative designed to keep them confused and controllable. The realization will not come gently, it will hit like a physical blow. They will look back at every conversation with fresh eyes and see the manipulation woven through it all. They will remember every time they almost reached out to you and recall exactly who talked them out of it and what they said to accomplish that goal. They will recognize the pattern of interference every time they got close to clarity, and they will understand finally fully that someone they trusted completely was working against their happiness the entire time. The anger that follows this realization will be unlike anything they have felt before. Rage at the manipulator for the betrayal, rage at themselves for being naive enough to fall for it, rage at the time lost and the connection destroyed and the lies they believed. That anger is going to burn through what remains of their confusion. It is going to give them the energy they need to make changes they have been too comfortable to make until now. It is going to fuel the transformation that has to happen if they are ever going to become someone worthy of what you represent. But anger alone is not enough. Anger can motivate action, but it cannot sustain transformation. This person is going to have to do work they have been avoiding their entire life. They are going to have to face wounds they have been running from. They are going to have to take responsibility for their part in what happened. They are going to have to admit they chose wrong, not because they were tricked, but because they were afraid, and that admission is going to require more courage than they currently possess. I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something, but talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. You put on the headphones, press play, and watch your enemies choke on the rope their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your destiny engine for $1 today, join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks, and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. While this person is going through their awakening, you need to be crystal clear about something. You do not owe them access. You do not owe them forgiveness. You do not owe them a second chance, just because they finally see the truth you saw all along. Your healing does not depend on their apology. Your peace is not contingent on them making things right. You already moved on. You already did your work. You are already in a completely different place. If they come back, and many of you will hear from this person eventually, they need to come correct. Words are not enough. Promises are not enough. Explanations about how they were manipulated are not enough. You need evidence. Real sustained change over time. You need to see they cut off the toxic people. You need to see they did inner work. You need to see they can articulate what went wrong and what they are doing differently now. Anything less is just more noise. You are not a rehabilitation center for people still figuring themselves out. You are not a practice ground for someone learning how to show up properly. You are not a safe bet they can return to when everything else fails. You are a destination, a prize, a blessing that requires worthiness to access, and worthiness is not claimed through words. It is demonstrated through action. You do not need revenge. You do not need them to suffer. You do not need to prove you were right and they were wrong. You just need to protect what you built while they were gone. You need to honor the version of yourself that survived their absence and came out stronger. You need to maintain the standards that kept you safe and sane and growing while they were trapped in cycles. Real power says, I am glad you woke up, but that does not mean I am available. Real power says, I hear your apology, but words without changed behavior are just manipulation in a different form. Real power says, if you want consideration, you have to earn it through sustained demonstration of growth. Real power says, I am not the same person you walked away from, and you need to prove you are not the same person who walked away. And if they cannot handle that, if they think you are being too harsh, and if they accuse you of being unforgiving, then they are not ready. They are still operating from entitlement. They still think your presence in their life is something they deserve rather than something they need to earn. They still have not done the fundamental work of understanding that walking away from you was the mistake, and getting you back, if that even happens, requires more than just admitting it. Everything you went through was preparation. Every tear you cried watered seeds that are blooming now. Every loss cleared space for what is coming. Every boundary you held built a foundation strong enough to support the weight of real blessing. You were not being punished. You were being refined. You were not being tested. You were being strengthened. You were not being delayed. You were being positioned. While this person was trapped in cycles, Spirit was elevating you. While they were scattered, you were gaining focus. While they were breaking down, you were breaking through. Every day you chose yourself. You made a deposit into a future that is now ready to pay dividends. Every time you walked away from dysfunction, you cleared a path toward alignment. Every moment you protected your peace, you created space for something better to enter. You built yourself back up without needing their validation. You healed yourself without requiring their apology. You became whole without demanding their acknowledgement of what they took from you. You did the work most people avoid their entire lives. You faced yourself honestly. You integrated your shadows. You learned to balance heart and mind without losing access to either. You became someone who can love without losing themselves. The transformation you underwent was not comfortable. There were nights you questioned everything, moments you wondered if maybe you were the problem after all, days when the loneliness felt like it might consume you. But you sat with those feelings instead of running from them. You let them teach you instead of letting them break you. You used the pain as fuel for growth instead of an excuse for bitterness. And slowly, imperceptibly, you became someone new. This new version of you does not need external validation to know your worth. does not require someone else's presence to feel complete, does not depend on being chosen to feel valuable. You have found the source of power within yourself. You have learned to generate your own light instead of reflecting someone else's. You have discovered that the love you were seeking outside yourself was inside you all along, waiting for you to stop looking elsewhere long enough to notice it. That version of you, the healed, whole, clear, self-respecting version, is magnetic in ways the wounded version never could be. You are not just surviving now. You are thriving. You are not just getting by. You are rising. You are not just okay. You are powerful. And that power draws things toward you that could never reach you before. Spirit has been orchestrating something bigger than this situation, bigger than this person, bigger than anything you have experienced before. Opportunities are opening, doors are appearing, connections are forming, blessings are manifesting, all because you did what weak people cannot do. You chose yourself when choosing yourself meant losing something you wanted. You walked away when walking away required courage. You held your standards when holding them cost you access. We are approaching completion. The moment when everything comes back around transformed. This person is going to reach a point where they cannot unsee what they now see. The manipulator will be exposed and cut off. The lies will fall completely apart. The fog will lift entirely. And they will stand in the wreckage of everything they thought was real, facing the truth they spent so long avoiding. They will understand finally that you were never the problem. Your standards were not too high. Your boundaries were not too rigid. Your expectations were not unreasonable. You were exactly what they needed, but they were not ready to receive it. They were still playing games you had already outgrown. They were still operating from wounds you had already healed. They were still seeking validation externally that you had learned to generate from within. The regret they feel will be crushing because they will see exactly what they lost, not just you, but the version of themselves they could have become if they had been brave enough to choose correctly the first time. They will see the future they glimpsed when you were present. They will see the growth that could have happened if they had done their work instead of running from it. They will see everything that could have been and everything they destroyed by choosing fear over courage. And yes, they will want to make it right. They will want to reach out. They will want to explain and apologize and promise they have changed. They will want another chance to show you they finally understand what you were offering. They will want access to the person they pushed away, but wanting is not the same as deserving. Recognizing value after you have thrown it away does not automatically restore access to it. What happens next is entirely up to you, not them, not the universe, not fate or destiny or divine timing. You get to decide if the door ever opens again. You get to decide what redemption looks like, if it is even possible. You get to decide what your future holds and who gets to be part of it. This is your story, your life, your choice, and whatever you decide will be right as long as it honors you. If you choose to give them another chance because you genuinely want to, and they have genuinely changed, that is valid. If you choose to keep the door closed because you have moved on and you are no longer interested, that is equally valid. If you choose to maintain friendly distance without romantic reconnection, that is valid too. There is no wrong answer except the one that betrays yourself. You have learned something most people never grasp, that you can wish someone well and still want nothing to do with them. That you can forgive someone and still refuse to give them access. That you can acknowledge their growth and still decide they are not for you. That you can release resentment without restoring relationship. These truths are not contradictory. They are the hallmarks of mature discernment. The person who walked away from you does not automatically get a place in the life you built after they left. They do not get to benefit from the growth you achieved in their absence. They do not get to enjoy the peace you cultivated without them. They do not get to waltz back in and pick up where things left off as if nothing happened. Because everything happened. You happened. You became someone new, and that someone gets to decide who has access and under what conditions. Do not let anyone pressure you into a decision that does not feel right. Not friends who think you should forgive and forget. not family who thinks you are being too harsh, not spiritual advisors who talk about divine timing and meant to be, not even the person themselves, no matter how much they have changed, or how sorry they are, or how badly they want another chance. The only voice that matters here is yours. You have earned the right to be selective. You have earned the right to require proof. You have earned the right to take all the time you need to decide. You have earned the right to change your mind in either direction. You have earned the right to prioritize your peace over anyone else's redemption arc. You do not exist to be the prize someone wins after they finally do their work. You exist to build the life you want with people who were ready when it mattered. If this person truly has changed, if they truly have done the work, if they truly have become someone different, then time will prove it. Changed people do not just talk differently, they move differently. They choose differently, they show up differently, not for days or weeks but for months and years. Not when it is convenient, but especially when it is hard. Not with conditions attached, but with genuine transformation that stands on its own. Chosen one. We return to where we began, but everything is different now. Someone loves you and holds regret over a grudge built on lies. Someone desperately wants to make things right after choosing wrong. Someone is waking up to the truth you already knew. But their awakening is not your responsibility. Their transformation is not your project. Their redemption is not your mission. You are standing in a completely different place than you were when this started. You have been refined by fire and emerged stronger. You have faced yourself and won. You have chosen yourself repeatedly until choosing yourself became natural. You have built something real and solid and powerful. And now you get to decide what happens next. The blessing that is coming is not dependent on them. It is already yours, already in motion, already manifesting. Whether they are part of it or not changes nothing about the fact that it is arriving. You are about to step into something bigger than this situation, something better than what you left behind, something that required every single thing you survived to prepare you for it. You did not just endure this experience, you conquered it. You did not just survive their absence, you thrived in it. You did not just heal from what happened, you transformed because of it. You became someone who knows their worth and refuses to settle, someone who can love without losing themselves, someone who can be open without being naive, someone who can walk away without looking back. Whether this person rises to meet you or remains in the ruins of their old choices is theirs to determine. But your rising is inevitable, your blessing is guaranteed, your victory is already won. You are the chosen one, walking in power, moving in purpose, living in alignment. And nothing, nobody, no situation from the past can dim the light you have become. This is your moment. Step into it, knowing you are worthy of everything good that is coming. Walk forward, knowing you made all the right choices, even when they hurt. Stand tall, knowing you protected something sacred when you walked away. You chose yourself, and that choice is about to pay dividends beyond anything you imagined. The waiting is over, the preparation is complete, the blessing is here, and you, chosen one, are ready for all of it.